All right, it's 5:01. Welcome to the Town of Bolton Coffee and Conversation number 3. And we ask that you speak into the microphone up here. If you're uncomfortable with that, hopefully we can hear you. And just raise your hand. We have Tom Ferrantino here for our moderator, so he'll take the questions and make sure it's a real question when you're done with it, and he'll forward it to us. Does that sound like it'll work? Something
It sounds like it'll work.
So just one quick, again, on protocol, you're also going to get people who will ask questions in the chat. How do you want to handle those? Because that's, legitimate for the folks online to submit them that way.
Why don't we want to alternate live and chat?
We could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just in case, because we got a number of them last time, and I just want to make sure that we do address that for folks.
Yeah, they kept popping up and I didn't know what it was, but we figured it out. So we also have Dave Caruso, our new superintendent of schools here. Ross Lally, finance
Chair of
Committee
Finance.
chair. Amanda Gordon. And company. And Rhea Klein. Amanda is on the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Rhea Klein is on the Board of Ed and the Finance Committee as well. So, do we have any questions?
Well, why don't we start with the live crowd? We'll take the first question from the live crowd, then we'll go to the screen and we'll go back and forth. So anybody willing to come up? Want to just come right up and go to the podium? Please just give your name and address, okay?
Sure. Hi, my name is Sherry DeVoe. My address is 111 Vernon Road in Bolton, of course. My question, and forgive me if it's already there and I did not see it, but I'm just curious if there's any summation anywhere that we can go to from budget to budget to see what the changes from the last budget are to the new budget. And like crypto notes, you know what I mean? Versus reading meeting minutes or something like that. Thank you.
Referendum 4, there was a document like that. It wasn't necessarily the budget changes because we don't really make line item budget changes. We just make overall cuts, right? So the Board of Finance can only make cuts to Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, or CAPA. So you don't know what the change, quote unquote, to the budget is, just the change to the bottom line of each of those budgets. And so after the referendum 4, I had created a document that showed what the budget was that was being voted on, what the changes were to the mill rate, what the changes were to revenue and expenses to get to that. And then, so I don't know.
I will
Can you
do
share
it. I
on the
will,
screen.
I will do, I'm not on this because I didn't get the invite. So anyway, to answer your question, I will post it.
Thank you.
I will post the additional changes. There's one right now. It's, if you go out online, let me just give you the name of it, Sherry. Hold on a second here.
Summary.
I just called it as basically summary of budget changes, by referendum, something to that effect.
It's this right here. That's like the second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it does list at the
on
bottom.
the budget page.
Yeah, and I will update that tonight and it'll be posted tomorrow. I'll ask
Super.
the
So-
staff here to do that, and that will bring it up to date from referendum 4 through referendum 6.
Perfect.
That basically is the highlights of each one.
And going forward into this next vote, we'll know what those changes are as well?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yeah, that's because this is, I just have to add 5 and 6 into it. It covers up through 4.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
And they're only $20,000 in each
Each of the
for
last,
the last 2 referendums.
except for there's 108,000 of revenue that we recommended, something approximately that we identified.
That was
So
really dead.
That was in
I know the previous one.
That was in referendum 5. So basically, $20,000 cut this time, 5 to Board of Ed, and 15 to Board of Ed and 5 to Board of Selectmen. This is for referendum 6. And the previous one for referendum 5, we did the same thing. It was a $5,000 cut to the Board of Selectmen and 15,000 to Board of Ed. And I think we also recognize some additional, revenue. Don't quote me on this, I have to look it up. I think it was approximately $108,000. That's revenue that now that the fiscal year is closed out, we know how much was left over. And typically, if the referenda had ended sooner, that would be applied, to the 27 budget instead of the 26, but we chose to apply it now, so it won't be there next year.
Okay.
And so all this stuff is if you go onto the finance committee page of the website and you scroll down past the meeting minutes, you'll see a link that says budgets. And if you click on that link and you go to the budgets page, it says 2025, 2026 budget process documents, and it's in one of those documents.
Thank you.
I'll blow that up like that for you.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to the virtual board, and there's a question from Sandy Pirog. Has the Board of Ed or the Board of Selectmen discussed what items will be cut to match the line items to the overall budget? And it would be helpful to know what the targeted expenses could possibly be.
Aside from the last two cuts of 20,000, 5,000 each to the Board of Selectmen and 15,000 each for the last two referendums to the Board of Education, those cuts were made in tandem with the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen. So for a referendum, I want to say 4, right? Superintendent Hecht was still here, I believe, and she had suggested cuts that could be made. Now the Board of Education would have to approve those cuts. For the Board of Selectmen, it was the same thing. Jim, on behalf of the town and Board of Selectmen, had made some suggested changes as to where the budgets could be cut. So those are all outlined in that document I just mentioned. The only ones where we don't have an idea of where the cuts would come from are the last two cuts that we made of $20,000 for each referendum, like I mentioned.
Wasn't the last two cuts 15 for the, not the Board of Ed,
Yeah, it was 15,000 for Board of Ed for the both.
for the second to the last?
Mhm.
Yep,
And 5,000 the Board of Selectmen for both.
For both?
Yeah,
Yes.
yep, we did the same thing. And I mean, we can mention specifics if people want, because Ross has it in front of him, but.
yeah. If you want to know, I can read them out, what the specific changes were for referenda for 3, 2, and 1.
No, I don't think we're going back that far.
I didn't see any notes.
But if we're asking what line items we plan on cutting with what's been cut, we don't know that. We don't even recognize them until after the budget's passed that we're making these cuts. Because we can continue making cuts and the board has to approve them after the budget's been passed. So you really don't come up with a particular location until then. Do we have?
Right.
I mean, $5,000 and $15,000 would probably come out of an operating expense or something, I would think. It's, it's not like it's gonna come out of, who knows which expense it, tell you.
We're trying to find some savings in other budget line items in other areas that don't impact kids directly. And so the past two, 15 and 15, we're trying to absorb those in different ways that again will have least impact on the kids. One way could be with summer hires if there's a change in staff members. And I know Superintendent Hecht was able to realize some savings when one teacher left the district or retired. And she was able to realize some cost savings when another teacher came in making less money. And that gets offset there. So oftentimes in the summer times, there's some transition with staffing as well. We have a position open right now that may occur. And so that's, we're trying to look to do that first.
So these budgets, they're budgets for a reason. It's not a fixed costing system, so it's not like you can go out and say, how much salt are we gonna use this year? We don't know. We just have a budget that's been put together over the years and you just know what it is and you know how much the cost of salt and sand is gonna go up. you know, how much the labor is gonna go up, you know, how much you don't always know how much fuel is gonna go up and expenses. Last year, we got beat up with the old energy costs. That went up quite a bit. The year before, it was telephones. The year before, it was
Mhm.
fuel. You know, there's always something. So if you're trying to make it a fixed number, it just wouldn't work.
That said, I do want to clarify that, you know, we don't start with last year's budget and build off of last year's budget. We start with a blank budget, right? And we consider every single expense that, and is it necessary? Is it something that can get cut? We use historical data from the prior year and the years before that to come up with the estimates, but we don't just assume that we're starting with last year's budget and build off of that. We do use a zero-based budgeting process.
Okay, now we're gonna shift back to the audience, and why don't we see if we have somebody else first who wants to come up? Certainly.
I have a loud voice, I'm sure you'll be able to hear me. Mark Freeman, 15 Lux Way. First of all, I want to thank everybody here for what you do for the town. I mean, it's a thankless job, I would guess, pretty much. So anything I say after this, hopefully doesn't come across as being confrontational, because I understand, you know, what it would be like to be in your shoes. But with that said, and thank you, Amanda, for just answering that about the zero-based budgeting, because that was one of the things I had in my notes that I want to bring up. So, well, I'll start with kind of a statement. I've been listening to the finance committee meetings via Zoom, and particularly the last two seem to be almost unanimous that everybody here would have been happy with just cutting the budget by $1. Because legally you could do that, and I'm grateful that you went beyond that. But I guess my question is, what do you guys and gals see as your responsibility, your fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers versus your responsibility to have an award-winning high school? And the reason I ask that is, you know, right now we're at a 4.73% increase off of the effective budget of what it would have been last year, which in my opinion is, you know, still at least 2 percentage points above the rate of inflation. But we started off at almost, what was it, 13% increase, which personally I think it's unsustainable, it's ridiculous, it's insulting, quite honestly, it's how I take it. And then we have the referendums, and starting out, it was, you know, 75% of the people that voted no. I mean, that's a pretty strong message. And yes, it's been whittled down, and it'll probably pass next time. But, you know, my question is, how can we expect to have sustainable taxes in this town with those kind of increases?
So if I might just correct one thing you said.
Sure.
You said we have like a 4.5% increase in the budget. The actual increase now to
I'm talking about tax increase.
okay, just wanted to make sure that we're
Yeah.
talking the same thing.
No, tax increase.
Okay, and that is due not to a budget being out of control. It's due to loss of revenue from our motor vehicle tax rebates that we get from the state because our mill rate dropped, you know, so that's what the issue was.
And I understand that, but if that happens in my household, or my guess is most other people's household in this town, if you lose income, you've got to make the cuts, or you borrow the money. I'm not a big fan of that. I know a lot of people do. But, you know, we've done some pretty substantial cuts in the capital budget. I don't know where you're going to cut more out of there. But it does seem like with the Board of Education, where if I understand correctly, there's a state mandate that you can't reduce the amount of the budget from the previous year. Is that correct?
You can't go below the adopted
Okay.
budget for the Board of Ed from the previous year, except under certain, you know,
4 different.
there's several different scenarios. I don't think we're near any of those.
Yeah.
So
No, I know.
we're limited there. So just to, you know, build on that comment is We probably have, if you wanted to get back to the other, say to that effective mill rate from last year, you'd have to make another $200,000 cut to the Board of Ed approximately, and then the rest has to come out of the Board of Selectmen. It would be about another $650,000 out of
To
that.
get to, where would that get us?
If you wanted to get back to the tax rate that you had last year, the same amount of taxes you had last year, that effective mill rate, we would need to cut almost another $850,000 from the current
Yeah,
budget.
I didn't do that calculation.
I'm just saying, because I know people are gonna ask, we
Yeah,
have.
no, that's
our
good
CFO.
information and, probably is not feasible. But I just think it's a philosophical thing too. The school system, what do we have, 218 kids or something like that in the high school now? My kids went through the school system 10, 15 years ago, and so I can appreciate
Yeah.
the level of education that Bolton provides, and I don't want to see that diminish for kids that are behind my children. But I also want to be able to afford to live in town, and me personally, I'm going to probably stay here no matter what. But there's a lot of people here that just really cannot afford to shoulder these increases. And I'm not a social media guy. I know, people have spoken to that there's a lot of false information, and I don't doubt it. And that's why I stay away from it. But just from my own calculations, I mean, I've lived here since 95. The inflation rate from 95 to 25 is 2.51%. And my taxes went up at an effective 3% rate. Now, I could live with that. I think that's fairly reasonable. But, when I start seeing numbers starting at 12.5%, that just makes me wonder, like, what are we doing here? I understand we need to take a hard look at what we're going to do with the high school. Maybe there should be some kind of committee or working group put together to look at those things. But that's not going to do anything for this year. But I think if we don't look ahead, this is going to be an annual occurrence.
I'll chime in and say, I honestly think it's more of a revenue issue than an expense issue, right? Our budget is increasing less than 2% at this point, right? And flat funding and an increase at less than 2% is a cut. I want to be clear to everybody, when you don't increase at what we're asking for, it's a cut because prices are going up, right? Union contracts are going up about 3%, utilities are about 8%, insurance is way higher. So if we're not getting those percentage increases, something's got to get cut, which is why you're seeing cuts happening, even though we're asking for a slight increase of less than 2%, right? It really is a revenue issue. Unfortunately, when people ask me, how do we bring in revenue? I see three options. I'm probably not going to remember them all right off the top of my head right now. But a lot of the means to bring in revenue, you have to spend money to make money, right? If we want to bring development into this town, we need a full-time planning and development person. Right now, we have a part-time contractor who doesn't have sufficient time to go out and proactively bring business into town, right? And quite frankly, when we've brought in businesses, there's been a lot of backlash from the public about the type of businesses that we've brought in, right? You can't make everybody happy. The other thing that we could do is potentially bring in more grant money. Grant money usually comes with match dollars required, which means you need to spend money, right? Or have it accrued in the bank in order to use that as match in order to bring in money. Usually it's 25, 75, 20%, 80% grants. You also need somebody who can write those grants and find those grants, right? Jim right now is doing most of that work on top of all the other work that he does.
When you say Jim, you mean our
Sorry,
town
Jim
administrator.
Rupert, yes, our town administrator. It's not easy to find grants. It's not easy to write grants. It's not, and you can spend a lot of time and energy on it and then not get that grant. Thankfully, we've been lucky enough to bring in a lot of grants. But again, that's a situation where you have to spend money to make money. There was one other example I've used in the past in social media, but it is eluding me at this moment. So, there are things we can do to bring revenue into the town, but there's an upfront cost to make those things happen. I think maybe the other one was the infrastructure, the water line, right? In order to bring businesses in and get more, on 95 and 44, we need water, we need sewer, and we don't have what we need in order to bring the businesses in. And that is a big project, which Jim and Rodney are actively working on with Manchester and Coventry, but that's a massive investment in order to build up the revenue in this town. And I come from a regionalized school system, right? I went to RAM, I excelled there. I am not against regionalization, but we have to do a strong analysis of whether that's even going to save us money, right? What, if you send your kids out to another school, if we join another school system, it still costs a lot of money. And so we have to weigh those options. And I think that is something that the Board of Education is actively looking at, is like a written analysis of what those options are, because it may not actually be cost efficient to regionalize a school system. And then there's a question of who do you regionalize with, right? And what are the inefficiencies that you get? What additional costs are there to people who live in town, right? Your gas prices go up if we've got to drive to Coventry or Ram or Manchester, right? So there's a lot of things to weigh, and you're hearing the public loud and clear saying it's something that needs to be weighed. But I think there's a lot, it's not as easy, I guess, as a lot of people make it out to be, because we're hearing on social media, just cut everything by 30%, right? Just cut 30% of your administration. If it were that easy, we would have done it before. So.
And just one other comment about this. I'm looking at some figures we put together. I'm gonna have these posted too. And one of our Board of Ed members did an analysis over the last 25 years, actually, adjusting, our budget and, to May 2025 dollars. Our budget right now, it peaked around in fiscal year 22. If you adjust everything for May, 2025 dollars, so everything is, consistent buying power. We're at the same place we were in buying power, like from 2009 through 2015. So we're actually, we went up in between that and then we dropped down. So we're not actually, buying anything more than we were in the past, as far as the buying, power of our dollars, where we were like, 14 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't contend that, that is the case, that
Yeah.
we are spending wildly. My concern is just from the other end.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's, when you start seeing 12% increases on a year where inflation is less than 3%,
Yep.
okay, well, then what happens next year? And then the year after that? People aren't gonna move into this town if the tax rate is so crazy. Because all you're really getting is the school system and that environment, which is a great thing. But, you're not getting services like Manchester or Glastonbury or.
Could I just beg to differ with that? Our town crews, well, I'm gonna speak to the Board of Selectmen, and I'll let David speak to because you're saying you're not getting anything. You get your roads paved, we do. How many miles do we do each year?
Well, ironically,
No, I'm
I
saying,
had my road paved this year.
no, I'm just saying,
And honest to God, I'm like, why are we doing this?
We
It
did-
didn't seem that bad to me.
that we pave the roads a couple miles every year, so we don't have to go and bond for doing that. We replace, there's a bridge on Lyman Road that's failing that needs to be replaced. There's all that work going on. Every time there's a storm, you have the crews coming out cleaning the roads. We've got a senior center. We have various athletic fields open for the public. And so there's a lot of things that I think you might be taking for granted. I'm not arguing with you about your feelings about the taxes, because those are yours. And I don't want to try to, talk you out of how you feel. But I do want to say there's a few more services around here than, not getting anything. So,
And I will say that Glastonbury does not have garbage pickup.
and that was
They
the
have
other
to pay to get garbage pickup. Garbage pickup costs us close to $1 million. So if people want no recycling and no garbage pickup, we can cut that tomorrow, and maybe by next fiscal year, it's gone. Right? But then we have absolutely nowhere to send our garbage, because our transfer station is not set, if it's not a system where we can go and drop our garbage off there every week the way they do in Andover, right? It's not licensed that way, it's not staffed that way, it's not large enough. And so that would cut into our savings, right? Because we would have to get that up to speed, or create an agreement with Andover or Manchester or somewhere else to drop off our garbage, right? Everything comes with pros and cons, but there are things that we get here in town. Like, I love having my garbage pickup. In fact, I wish we had recycling every week, because my recycle bin is always full. Right? I mean, and we've discussed ways of how do we reduce our per tonnage rate, right? Can we do more composting and stuff to reduce the tonnage and reduce our costs? But that is a major cost that went up recently because of the closing of a transfer, or I can't remember, what was it called in Hartford? They closed a waste management place. Right, and so there's less places for us to send our garbage, and everybody saw increases in those costs, right? But there are things that, you know, are day-to-day things that we just take for granted that cost the town quite a bit of money.
Fair to,
Can I just say something? Oh, go ahead, Ron.
go ahead.
It's just that if you live somewhere else, for example, I did a little research, and the mill rate, let's take Bolton and Glastonbury.
Yeah, I heard you read this at the meeting.
Right, and they average more than we average.
But I don't think you can compare mill rates between towns because.
No, I'm talking about
property values are-
estimated annual taxes on a certain type of house. That was, in Bolton for a certain type, you know, the same house, 3 bedrooms, you know, 2 bathrooms. It was a $3,000 difference of Glastonbury being higher. Vernon was lower, like by almost $1,000. And South Windsor was very high. South Windsor is very high. So, I mean, granted, they have more amenities, maybe more, you know, things for people, the public to do. But still, it's not as though you can move somewhere else and get a big drop in your taxes. Taxes are high in Connecticut, and that's where we live. And I wish they could be lower, but it's not as though Bolton's like way out of the ballpark in terms of the amount of taxes. All the towns around us are paying a lot of taxes.
Well, yeah, and my point is even not so much about this tax season, it's going forward. You know, I mean, because if surprisingly, I mean, I know in other years, the PTO got very involved in trying to push the budget through. I mean, in one of the years, it was a fairly large increase on the first referendum, and I was shocked. That didn't happen this year. So the people that are voting no. You know, I mean, if it goes through this time, yeah, probably not a big deal. But I'm trying to be more forward thinking, like, you know, what's going to happen next year's. You know, if it came in at, I just think, you know, that's my initial question was, what is the finance boards and the board of selectmen responsibility to give us a budget that is reasonable? And I can't ever say a 12.5% increase in taxes is reasonable.
But the budget is reasonable. The tax increase may not be reasonable, but the budget is reasonable because you said you didn't have a problem with the budget increase. That's the issue, right? It's not a budget issue, it's a revenue issue.
Well, from my perspective, it's a tax increase. That's where I think all business people are operating from. So, you know, it's a tax increase.
One of the other things, though, that it was difficult was that there were a lot, there's revenue that we don't know about when we have the first referendum. That is a structural issue that we have to contend with and, you know, take into consideration in the future. And I don't know how we do it, but, for example, the insurance, you can really get a big drop in insurance costs that you can't know until June. You don't know, open enrollment doesn't end, you don't get the actual percentage increase in the insurance rates for people. You don't know who's gonna get the insurance and who's not gonna get the insurance. So that's a huge amount of money. And then we did save money. But it was later, it was after the first two referendums.
And then there was two issues last year with the grantless problem that seemed like it carried over into this year with whatever $300,000 and
That was the
accrued
miscalculation of
taxes.
the mill rate by
So,
an individual.
I mean, I would have, you know, I'm digging in now, so I'm finding the information.
Yeah.
If you're not
Good.
If you're not a bulldog about this, there's no way, like people that voted in that last, I think it was the last referendum where that $300,000 had to be accounted for, where the mill rate actually went up. If you just looked at what was posted on the town website, There was nothing about that. And the only reason I knew about it was because I listened to the finance board meeting.
Good.
I mean, to me, that should be publicized.
No, I really value that with the people who do this. And I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to do that, because we can have a discussion, because you look at the same facts that we have to by the town charter law and accounting practices use. So we can talk about it. It's when the people, online come up with their own, different version of reality.
Yeah.
We can't talk. So I really am glad that you're doing that, and something I encourage, everybody to. I really, appreciate that, because I've had people call.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I lived in town 30 years. This is probably the second meeting I've been to. And I retired a few months ago. I have the time now, so,
Well, and what we
but most
recommend is
people don't.
if people have the time, like, we really are trying to we're making the best decisions we can with the information we have, with the creativity we have, with the time constraints that we have. But if people like yourself and others get involved in the process earlier, right, all the budget workshops are open to the public. All the details are there. So like during those meetings, if you hear something and you're like, wait, that's something I think the public would be okay with cutting, or is that something where we could do it a little bit differently, right? Like, we need more, I mean, I'd like to think that those of us up here are smart and intelligent people, but the more eyes and ears we have on this budget, the more creative we can be, the more, solutions we can find. So what we've been asking people is, if you don't like the budget, give us something concrete you think we can do, right? Because we're not necessarily, you elected us, yes, but that doesn't make us necessarily any smarter than all of you who are looking at these documents as well. So if you guys have a concrete idea of like, this position could get cut, or this could be done differently and save us hundreds of $1,000s, we need that input from the
Well, I
public.
think we did that with the administrative positions last year.
Right, the dean of
Was somewhat involved in that
Yeah,
too.
okay.
And so,
Great.
No, so I don't want to cut you off, but I wonder if there's any other people that have questions, because I saw some other hands up.
Why don't we do?
I don't know what
There's
you
one more online, I don't think. Doesn't look like it. The chat, we already addressed that one, I believe.
So did anybody have their hand up?
Yeah, Bill.
Anyone out there online on the screen who has any questions?
You see me?
Okay, so we're gonna go to the audience now. Sure.
William Anderson, 77 French Road, Bolton, Connecticut.
You just wanna step up?
I can.
Can you be heard?
Am I loud enough?
You can be.
I can be, yeah. So a few things here. There happens to be a piece of property across the street from England's Hardware, 702 Bolton Turnpike, owned by the town of Bolton, 5.7 acres. I have no idea why the town owns it, how they got it. I don't know the topography. I don't know if it's developable. I have no idea why we own that. Can we review our assets and have a little liquidation maybe, and get some of those assets off our books and onto the taxpayers' rolls?
Yeah,
That's one that I found.
right. Is that,
I looked at others.
is that on the corner of Vernon and
The hill that goes up.
Corey,
Larry.
Corey?
Yes, Corey and,
where the referendum sign.
85.
Yeah, okay.
It's across the street. I don't know the history of it. I don't know. I
May
just,
not be
I
developed.
know we own some of that over there.
Yeah.
I thought it was on the corner of Vernon then, but maybe
No,
it is Corey. Okay.
maybe there's two. I
Could
just
be.
found the one. So if you could just kind of review the assets and maybe, get some of those assets onto the tax, the grand list, that would be great. On the report, economic development, I chaired the economic development. I was on the committee for a number of years.
Mhm.
The last time I was on it, I suggested to the town of Bolton, they shut it down and stop wasting the money because we were getting nothing done. The Economic Development Commission was in sales and we try to sell the town. But the zoning regulations are very prohibitive to selling Bolton to development. And if you want to talk to people like Rich Hayes or, Jim Aldrich, they'll tell you which towns are favorable to develop in based on the rules and regulations. Bolton was not one of them. So there's $5,000 that is in the budget for economic development. Does anyone know where that's going?
Can you show me the line item?
I highlighted it too.
I saw some pink there.
Oh, yeah, that is the countryside, Connecticut countryside.
The Advanced Connecticut?
No, it's
Yeah.
Connecticut countryside, so it's 4 towns, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
advanced CT, September 2020, 101 page plan. for economic development, 4 towns?
Oh, I don't think so.
No,
No?
it's
Maybe, no, this was,
108.
Patrice organized the community thing between Tallinn, Vernon, Tallinn, Mansfield, Coventry and Bolton.
Okay.
And they built a whole website and they got all kinds of advertising going on. And
Okay, is that benefiting the town of Bolton from our revenue perspective? Now, bringing in sales, that's great for the state of Connecticut and the federal government, but unless it adds houses or
Bring in
businesses.
revenue for businesses.
for businesses, right.
In the town.
Okay.
So it's essentially a
I think
marketing.
we got it, Eddie.
Well, you're in a meeting.
tool.
Okay,
So businesses can put their business on there, to promote them, and when we have events across towns, like the events at Heritage Farm and stuff, we can
Right.
cross post and try to cross pollinate and get people to come, so it's
Okay.
really to try and, more grassroots than direct revenue to the town.
And
Okay.
4 towns that would probably be active.
all right, if maybe we could add some metrics to the success of that program?
Yeah.
And
we should,
measure?
so we should
Okay,
be able to-
all right, so
we should-
that- okay.
we should be able to get those out if we haven't already.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're on the website somewhere, but.
The Lyman Road Bridge, I stumbled on this before this. Let me see, Senator Rahman welcomes 1.4 million investment in Bolton Bridge. Is this legit
That's a
money?
That's
grant that
correct.
we
A
got.
grant for that bridge?
Right, so you'll see in the capital budget that we put $170,000 this year and $170,000 next year.
Yeah.
That is to make our match. So
Okay,
if we had not gotten that
Yeah.
grant, we would have had to pay that 1.4 million.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we're only in for what, 3.2?
there's 2 6-foot diameter tubes there. They want to put in an 18-foot wide, 6-foot tall box culvert.
You're talking beyond my.
Okay, I'm just saying,
Right,
Math not in.
okay, 6-foot diameter circle,
yeah,
2 of them, right? 5D, pi squared versus 6 by 18. And I'll give you an example, the bike path that went in, we've got the beautiful bridge over Camp Meeting.
okay,
If you come a
Yeah.
little bit down Camp Meeting, you see another bridge,
right,
a ridiculous expensive bridge. And the watershed for that is between Finley, 384 and Camp Meeting. It's a tiny, I bet you 5 gallons a minute never goes through there on a 100-year storm.
right.
They could have got away with a 1-inch pipe in there and that could have been a $500 project.
Mhm.
On Hebron Road, there's another 2 circular culvert going under Hebron Road, concrete. On Hebron,
Down by Valerie or something?
down, man, I don't.
Okay, Yeah, never mind.
17 Hebron Road.
Okay.
Comes out of the swamp, whatever that big swamp is,
Mhm.
goes under the road, 2 concrete tubes. If this Lyman Bridge is on my property, I would find a way to go get 2 concrete tubes and a bulldozer or something, and I would sleeve that thing in there for, a couple $100,000. I'm not the engineer. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know 100-year floodwaters. Obviously, this 16 or 18 by 6, if they say that's necessary for a 100-year flood, then you would think that thing would have flooded over the road every other year with 2 6-foot diameter tubes. I don't know, I just think that's
Just think
graft.
the amount is too much.
It's,
Yeah, really saying the scope of the project.
I don't know. I certainly don't want to accuse state employees of generating state jobs for state workers. I don't want to go that far, but this seems a little excessive.
okay, well, it was,
I'm an engineer,
it
right?
was Joe, yeah, our usual engineer,
Herrick Park,
I think.
120 acres roughly. Probably 100 of it is forested. You missed the window on the ash. We have the ash borer. The ash is gone. It's dead. It's firewood. We have the beech leaf crinkles killing all our beech, and we have the black
Walnut,
birch canker.
well,
I started out with 35 acres in Bolton. I now have 75. I've harvested timber off my property for the past 15 years. I've taken $100,000 of timber off my property. That's 100 acres. You could probably get $1,000 an acre for at least 100 of it. There's $100,000 you could get in the next couple of months.
so you're saying harvest the
I-
town's property?
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing the environment a favor by getting I took a walk through there last year. I would never go there on a windy day. The ash trees are all dead.
Yeah.
You're gonna get killed there in a windstorm.
Yeah.
But just from an environmental standpoint, I would cut out all that defunct wood, even if it goes as firewood, and I would mark some of you've got a huge white oak stand
Yeah.
On the corner of, across from Larry Pease's farm, whatever that corner is, a bunch of white oak in there. I would mark it.
Hebron and Loomis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make some money, mark it.
Hmm.
I would definitely do that. How much does it cost per referendum? Do you know?
About $5,000. It was 6. I've been reducing the cost on it. This is my other hat as registrar.
No, that'd be nice to tell the general public.
Yeah.
Everyone has a budget, right? I have a budget. I know there's certain things I can't cut. I can't do nothing about my mortgage payment.
Yeah.
It would be nice if the budget was maybe color coded, not to give you an extra task, but there's fixed costs in here that just, there's no wiggle room. It would be nice. I mean, I think if you educate the public on what we can't touch and what we can touch and how much it costs per referendum, maybe we can get this job done in 1 or 2 shots,
We're
not
like
six.
diminishing returns
Exactly.
with the referenda.
Right.
But your mortgage payment does go up based on the taxes going up and the insurance going up.
If you're, if you're Oscar, yes. All right, now as far as
I think you're answering some of the other gentleman's questions about what other things can we
Right.
do, you know, for revenue and.
Yes,
Thinking outside the box.
yeah, and you hit the nail on the head on future planning, right? Our planning and zoning, I mean, if before we start talking about shutting down the high school, I say we talk about shutting down planning and zoning. At least separate the two. The planning department, a person should not have to come. Well, the reason they merged the two is because years ago, someone have to go before planning first, go through them, then they have to go to zoning, get their approval. So they said, let's merge them together. One shop does, one shop stop does all. The planning department, nobody should be going before planning. Planning should be working on a townwide plan. And zoning should be implementing rules to execute that plan. When I first came here, the residential subdivision regulations were pretty good. They have taken away lot after lot after lot over the past 20 years. It's getting ridiculous. We have people on that board. First of all, it probably should be appointed, but we're not there. It's elected, but it's a popularity contest. And people are using that structure as conservation via regulation. It's wrong. And it's hurting this town in the long run. So.
But I didn't see your name on the list of people running for planning and zoning bill.
I'm unelectable and you know that. The last vote we had, the Republicans took every spot except me. I lost. John Toomey on zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should try again if you've got ideas.
I have a 14-year-old daughter. When she's in college, my family comes first. So that's my advice. Look at your assets, sell a couple, harvest some timber.
There's been changes with planning and zoning and the zoning regulations. Have you kept up with that and whether you think those are gonna be beneficial or not?
From what I have heard from my circle of developers and builders is that the process is easier, but the regulations are still more restrictive than other areas.
And has anybody given that specific feedback to planning and zoning?
I've mentioned it. It's kind of like the brick wall. When you slam your head into the brick wall, after a while, you get tired doing it and you stop. Yeah.
So from what I'm hearing, you're saying that the regulations are what Bolton was defining rather than what we're being told to do from the state? Because
Those are two separate issues. The building code has gotten more expensive over time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you build. You build in Glastonbury or Bolton, you still have to deal with the building code, the fire regulations. Those have all gotten a little excessive. But the additional regulations that the town puts on, nobody wants to come into this town and try to do a project, whether it's residential or commercial, on a special permit only. And, you try to get your numbers lined up for your budget to see if you can make a profit or not. And you come in here, not here, you go into planning and zoning, and next thing you know, there's all these contingencies at the end. Okay, we'll approve your project, but you gotta do this, 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 and this, and there goes like another $80,000, $100,000 in the things they want you to do.
And that's something that Bolton's doing but other towns aren't. That is,
Other towns don't have the requirement of, like in this town, you need a 50-foot strip to have a house. Other towns don't have that. We used to be able to put in rear lots. Now you can put one rear lot per 4 regular lots. The fire cistern thing, that joke, we beat that back pretty good, but it's still on there. You do a subdivision, on the 11th house, you gotta start doing your water tank, your 30,000 or whatever
30,000
gallon cistern
gallon.
water tank. When was the last time a road was built in this town?
The one right off of French Road, maybe? With, or Highwood up on the end of Brandy there.
High Ridge?
High Ridge, yeah.
When was it?
That's the last one.
Oh, that's,
10 years more.
What's
lots are all
What
filled
does it
up.
tell you?
Yeah.
You can go on the state of Connecticut and you can pull the new housing permits by year, by town.
Right,
They're horrible.
Hmm.
And that's a regulatory problem. The surrounding towns around us aren't as bad.
But well, and I can't speak like educated on this, but we also have a lot of, there's a common sense that people want this town to maintain its rural characteristic, and there is a lot of preserved open space, so I don't even know how much. We don't
developable.
develop, right, we don't have a ton of developable, if that's the word,
Lots.
land.
Okay, so if that's the case, if there's not much developable land, then relax and reduce the regulations. I mean, this town's protected, because we don't have city water, city sewer. We have a lot of steep slopes, rock outcroppings and wetlands.
Water issue, yeah.
So those characteristics will keep this town undeveloped. So you might as well just lighten up on the regulations and let the few parcels that can be developed get developed.
Yep.
Excellent. This is not the planning zone. What you could do is every 10 years, you have to do a charter revision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you call an emergency charter revision and do it sooner?
I hear it's an ordeal. I was discussing it about something else as well.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's an event.
I would like to see planning and zoning separated, and I would like to see planning appointed. You still want to vote in your zoning, go ahead. That's what I would prefer to see for the longevity and growth of this town. So whatever you want to do, maybe we can get together and go through the hassle and have an emergency charter revision.
I like all the stuff you brought up, Bill, because it's helping, thinking out of the box, and it's coming with, you see a problem, you've got the ideas for something that might fix it, so you're bringing something to the table with it. The thing with this all requires some of it we can just do, but some of it requires a conversation with the townsfolk about what does Bolton want to be when it grows up? What do we want to look like? And there's a lot of conflicting ideas, and some of what we talk about with the finance committee, we're at the point with the budget where if we start making substantial cuts to the money, you start winding up doing things that the public really hasn't had their input in. Like, do you want your garbage collection cut? Do you want to stop, plowing the roads as much, or whatever, something, fairly large, let's say closing down the school. Not that I want to necessarily do it or not, but it's just a conversation like that. If you start doing things without getting the public involved, you get them even more angry.
No, I agree. No, you're absolutely right.
And
Get
that's
the
what
public involved. Give them an option. Hey, we can close your high school, or hey, we can try this with planning and zoning. Yeah, you just have to sell it.
Yeah.
You gotta package it right. And
Yeah, I know. And you gotta talk to people.
yes,
Mhm.
awesome. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I think the development portion of it should really be more toward the commercial development myself. Yeah, yeah. Because without that, that's where the real tax money comes from. The residential thing, well, yeah, it trickles in, but if you can get the commercial where that's so, personally, that's where my focus is. So
We need more kids in high school. We got a big high school, we got a little population of kids.
we need a complex that has 100 units or 150 units and a bus route. So that'll bring up the kids. Tom,
Yep, right here.
where'd you go?
Okay, so we have a question from Ashley Pajoli. Has the town gotten multiple quotes on the Lyman Bridge project?
And it comes after the grid.
We're
We had the design.
just working on budgets that the engineer has gotten us, which is industry standard stuff, I believe.
I wonder if the question is coming out of
Yeah.
his comments about being able to do the project in a different way. That might be less expensive. I'm
Uh,
guessing if that's what Ashley means.
That could be, Ashley is, on the Board of Ed and the Finance Committee as well. And,
No, this is another.
Actually.
oh,
No,
But
she's
yes.
on the Board of Ed.
on the Board of Ed.
This is
Not finance,
This
but-
is for Jolie, not fair.
So when it goes out to bid, it's not a design build thing, I don't believe. I'm sure these standards are just totally out of control when you go to build a bridge and they obviously have to shut down that piece of the road for 6 months or whatever it's gonna be and I don't know, they're just working on the engineers' budgets at
But
the
it will
moment.
go out to.
Yeah.
Yes, it
For
will.
the person to actually do the work, and is there a chance that it'll come in under budget? Yeah.
It's like, for example, the demolition of the old Bolton,
Correct.
Bolton Center School. That came in way under, what our estimates were that were, for the grant money.
Can we just let it fail? I mean, there's no roads, there's no kids, there's nothing underneath it. They're just two tubes. And it's not gonna collapse and kill somebody. You're gonna get a little sinkhole as it starts to buckle.
So we
That
are.
might be 30 years from now. You never know.
The grant money's already given to us. I mean, I don't think it's in our bank yet, but it's already awarded. And there's 107, half of the money is in for our portion in the capital this year. And I believe most of the engineering may even already be done.
Correct.
So it's too late. We're gonna pay
It's moving forward. Yeah, we just,
million.
what do you tell the people who live there and they have a fire and the fire truck has to go around and they can't do this or that? and
Come this way, come that
Whatever.
way.
So I mean, we have to be concerned with a lot of different things.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
So yeah, that one's, and once it's in, it's a forever thing. It's not like it's only good for
No.
50 years.
It's a long term.
50 years. Well, it's my forever.
Okay.
And mine too. See you later.
Okay, we're gonna shift back to the audience. Any questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Yeah, could I,
Oh, 1 second.
could I
Yes.
ask a question?
This audience turn, then we'll go back to him.
Can you hear me?
We'll go back to you in a minute if you can hold on,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Once again, Sherry DeVoe. So the first question I have is the electric supply. I heard that electricity is expensive. So at my house, what I do is I go on the electric supply and I play that game of hopping. Can you guys do that?
No, I believe,
Not hopping. We have a contract
yeah, we have a contract. or something, not-
through CCM, the Connecticut Municipalities, Conference of Municipalities. They get 10 towns together and they make a deal. And
Okay.
they think
And we're
that,
at 9.5?
Yeah,
I think
it's
we have a really reasonable
That's reasonable.
rate right now,
Okay.
but it was negotiated through Mass, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you
The
could,
buying power.
because I know I save quite a few dollars doing
Yeah, I
that.
don't know how long the contract is, though. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, and then as far as the Board of Ed goes, I like what Bill said, focusing on building and development versus maybe the schools and minimizing our school system. However, the thing that I was curious about is when the board is looking into what would happen if we cut schools or if we cut one of the schools and did a regional system. I'm not really excited that the Board of Ed, no offense, I'm sure there's great people on the Board of Ed, but to me, that seems like a contradictory of just desires as far as the Board of Ed is looking to see if school systems would be better if they were regional. I think a separate board would probably be better to do that.
Independent.
Independent, thank you.
We
Yes.
would form a different committee for that,
Okay,
with the public involved as
Well,
well.
then,
I
that's
thought
up
I
to the
heard,
Board of Ed.
okay,
That's up to the Board of Ed, I believe.
I would think so.
So, I mean,
But I
and
hear you.
my
sense.
thinking, right, was, and correct me if I'm wrong, right, but the idea was that the superintendent goes out and does an analysis and presents it to the Board of Ed, who are supposed to ask the critical questions of the superintendent, right? The Board of Ed is supposed to represent not the best, I mean, yes, the best wishes of the school, but also the residents, right? They're elected to serve the entire population.
Can you
They,
stay on this map? I can't figure it.
they don't have skin in the game, like they're not paid people who have a conflict of interest, right? They are supposed to be the people holding the school system accountable, right?
I still get a feeling like you're hiring a fox to do an improvement to the chicken coop. And I don't feel that that's, again, I'm sure there's good people on the Board of Ed, but for a board to look to see if regional school systems would be better in some capacity. But I do like after, that was my note before I heard Bill speak about development. I do think that's a better way to go. But if we
It would
do,
also cost money though.
and your points were well taken. Yeah. But I think again, to this gentleman and to that gentleman, I think we've got to think beyond today's budget. We got to get ready for next year. And if we can find ways to cut back the school, or we can find ways to adjust the zoning, and we can find ways to development. And I love the idea of the wood, because it is healthy for the forest, for the town to do that. It's a revenue generator. Kudos to you. I think that's a wonderful idea. So you're gonna spend money to have someone do it, but then you turn around and sell it.
Yep.
So I think that there's again, thinking forward beyond today's budget. The water and sewer lines, someone said that that's being looked at.
Yep.
Is it the process is being in
We're-
place,
we're-
or?
Working with Manchester to try to get something moving on that. And they have a new girl in place in the water department who's very, very efficient. And yes, we're moving forward with that. We're not making huge steps.
Yeah, but you're looking into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We've
wonderful.
had 2 or 3 meetings with them so far.
Okay.
And the first step would be to come up with a plan, right? To get a planning grant to try
We
and.
gotta get we gotta, I think it's like $500,000 to come up with the plan to figure it out. Because we're trying to get Coventry involved as well. Because Manchester would go through Bolton and go through the notch into Coventry. So with our developable property with sewer is already out there, so we'd have sewer and water both on the other side of the notch, which would open that up for development.
Right, going back to increasing development. Right, so things are in place that could happen.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And then what's the process of reviewing this zoning and the zoning regulations? What would come up, who does that and when can that be done?
They do that all the time and they've just edited their.
Yeah, you said
It's
that,
my understanding that they simplified them. I mean, I am not on planning and zoning.
Right.
It is, but I don't.
right.
But yeah. I
Patrice
believe just-
and Mike do that. We have
They help.
2 part-time people who to work through that.
But it's not on a timetable, I
Yeah.
don't think. We do have, so to the point you made about planning, right? We have a plan of conservation and development, POCD, that was created in 2020 or 2015, I believe, right?
But it was
But because
revised.
it's revised, so in theory, we're supposed to edit that every 10 years. However, the town was required to come up with an affordable housing plan, right? And that became an amendment to the plan. And so they called that the revision of the plan of conservation and development. If you look at it, I think a lot of us would agree with much of what is in there, but there's not been a lot of forward movement on a lot of what is in that plan. All of this stuff, and I'm just trying to channel Jim right now, and I'm trying to channel all the staff that work here, and someone who works at a nonprofit, which is always working on bare bones budgets, right? There's all these things we would like to do. We would love to spend time building efficiency, love to implement all these plans, but we're so bare bones staffed that finding the people to engage to actually move these things forward, that is the biggest challenge right now, right? Like, we don't have a ton of staffing capacity as it relates to planning and development. So who's going to do the legwork and move these things forward, right? That's where this need for increased investment comes in to actually implement these good ideas.
No, I'll disagree with that. We have the Route 44 study, we have there's 2 of them, right? There's the Hawk River study, the 44 study, POCD. Go ahead and look at all the things that they recommend to do and the associated cost with it and what department's supposed to do it. Can all that. Relax the zoning regulations and the businesses will do it on their own. You don't need staff. Businessmen don't need government. You just get out of the way and let businesses do what businesses do best. Their business. That's it. We don't need it. There's nothing to implement.
Okay.
So with the planning and the zoning, and I'm sorry, I'm like this gentleman, I recently retired, so I'm digging deeper. That's why you've been seeing me more often. But anyways, so the planning and zoning, I'm big on conservation, you know, I'm a tree hugger. But I also think that if you have planning and zoning and their focus is conservation in a big way, then it could get in the way of Bolton doing more development. So how does the planning and the zoning person or people are they elected? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not really.
They'll be on your ballot this November.
Yeah, the municipal
I think
election.
there's 4 of them on the ballot this year for full positions and maybe 2 for all.
And how do we know you don't know their intent? You just gotta like go out and have coffee with them or something.
Well, it depends. I mean, depending on the party, right? Each party does things a little bit differently. Like our party, with the Democrats, we post bios and you could contact them and ask
We do
them.
the same.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's,
So maybe they might post a bio or not.
they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know that was something we
Right.
talked about at the town committee meeting, was the candidates getting their bios together so we can put a flyer together.
because that would be nice to have
Democrats
some
do the
idea of what
same
their
thing.
thought process is.
Or if there's incumbents, you can listen to last meetings to see what their comments are, right?
And when's the next election for?
First week in November, first Tuesday, first week.
First Tuesday
First
after the
Tuesday.
first Monday.
Is it the
Okay.
8th or something?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, and then Rodney does most of the writing for the grants.
No, Jim.
Oh, Jim does.
Jim
Town
Roper.
administrator.
Okay, I thought you said Rodney.
Got extra work there.
I'm part-time.
I mean, I'm sorry, not Rodney, I'm sorry. I was totally thinking of someone else. Okay, thank you. All right, and that was, those were my questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Tom.
Looks like you got another question.
But
Can Dave share how the students and families have different options for schools over the past 10 years? Like the different option for magnet, charter.
This will be quick.
Also, how many options do 8th graders in Columbia have now that was different 10 years ago? And this is from Jessica.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Jessica. Things certainly have changed over the last 10 years for options for families in Connecticut. So there are more magnet schools that pop up all the time. So the families have those options. As far as the students from Columbia, I met with the superintendent from Columbia last week. Had a really good conversation with her about her 8th grade students and getting more access to her 8th grade families. As far as like myself and our team, they have an informational high school night for their families. I believe it's early November that they have that. And I talked to her about having an additional night or 2 just specific to Bolton. So we can go out there and I can have a conversation with families in Columbia and we can have conversations about what Bolton High School has to offer. They just added Ram High School as one of their options. So that's another competing high school for us with Columbia students. But the superintendent indicated that the lion's share of students are still going to E.O. Smith. And I got the sense that, I think part of it is maybe they don't have as much information as they could have about our schools. And I think once we get in front of some of those families and get to brag about all the great things that our high school has to offer, that we'll attract some more students from Columbia and that'll snowball from there a little bit. But it's not getting easier. It's getting harder with all of the options that they currently have.
choice as well. So when the choice program started, which is Hartford kids coming into Bolton, we were one of the only towns available to them to
Correct.
come, right? And since then, other towns have opened up, so those numbers have dwindled as well.
Yeah.
And I would say, I do know some Columbia students who came here who really liked it, and so if we can get Columbia
Yeah,
students to
that's
see
my thought
them,
as well.
yeah, that would be great.
And the other thing too, just with the schools, Connecticut doesn't have a growing population. We have an aging population, declines slightly every year.
I want to say over the past 15 years, I just saw this, through 15 years, there's about 21,000 students fewer.
Yeah, so that's why I said there's a shrinking pie that everybody can now compete for. So it's a statewide issue, with lots of schools.
There was another gentleman online that was
That's what he was trying to ask.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. There was somebody online that was,
On the phone, I think, no? Or-
Yes, I'm still here.
There we go.
okay, you're up.
I'm a strong supporter of the school system. Graduated 2 kids, 4 grandkids. But can't help but wonder if the taxpayers getting older has a lot to do with us needing 6 referendums. And if the Board of Education cost goes up another 4.6% next year, will 6 referendums be enough? So my question partly is, we've got 634 students, Bolton residents, K through 12, 634 students. If you divide that into the BOE budget, we're paying $26,000 per student per year. And of course, the bulk of our taxes, the bulk of our income is from property taxes. 75%.
I appreciate the comment and the support of the school system. I apologize for not having the exact number in front of me, but our per pupil expenditure is closer to the $20,000 than 26. 26 is quite high. And if I'm not mistaken, also that $20,000 per pupil expenditure is probably around the state average, if not maybe a tick above.
Just seemed like a huge number
Yeah.
compared to, sending a kid to college. But my main question is, we talk a lot about the high school. Is there a substantial difference in cost of a year in the 8th grade versus a year in the 9th grade?
A cost for the students?
Yeah, per student.
Well, typically high schools are more expensive to run in general because they have wider array of programs and for students, extracurricular activities, athletic programs, things like that. So typically in most towns, you'll see the cost of a high school being a little bit higher than a middle school or an elementary school.
Can you identify yourself for me, please?
Curtis Cook?
Curtis?
Yes,
What was the last name?
Cook.
Cook. Thank you, Curtis.
And also, just a comment on the percentage increase that you referred to. The percentage increase right now from the Board of Education side is 1.62%. And I thought I heard you reference 3 or 4%. It's 1.6% right now for the board.
I may have misread the budget. I tried to go
That's
through
okay.
some of the details.
No, that's
But I
okay. At
didn't-
one point in one of the referendums, I believe you were correct. It was about that number. But in this
Okay.
last one, it's 1.62.
So the BOE budget 16.8 proposed,
I do not have that right in front of that. Yes. Yep.
16,800,000. If you divide that by 634 Bolton resident students, that's $26,500 per student.
But we don't serve only Bolton resident students.
If
When
you
you
divide
serve
it by the other 60 students, it comes out to $24,000 a student. But of course, I'm a taxpayer in Bolton. I want a school system. I want the Bolton kids to get a good education. And I understand $10,000 a year tuition from the Hartford students or $16,000 a year from Columbia helps with the total cost, but they're getting a bargain. And I know that comes with some state co-funding.
They come with busing and any special needs cost too, don't they?
Yeah, if they have other needs, and then they incur those costs as well.
Right. So I mean, there's some costs that are covered with the lower fees that they're paying, so.
But just getting back to demographics, again, it keeps going up and our taxpayers are getting older.
Yeah, the cost of everything's going up. The electricity over there at the high school in particular, the heat pumps are electric, aren't they? They got the geothermal system over there it's all electric. It's run by pumps and it just uses a lot of electricity. For as much as it saves on the heating versus oil, it uses a fair amount of electricity, and if the price of electricity goes up, it directly goes right out of the budget.
Have we looked into solar?
Same thing.
The roof doesn't have the capacity, because most of that school is still the older roof, I think. And I think at one time we were looking at carports and so forth, and I remember I was on the energy committee a long time ago, and we were looking at that, and we were talking about carports on the side, and get the power company involved, and the wires going from up here to down there were too small. So they would have to change all the wires, and that kind of threw the whole thing out of the mix.
How about the land close to the school being solar? I'm seeing all these solar fields all over the
Yeah,
place, and I heard that that some of them don't cost any.
There was a project that went out to bid, but it was so small that nobody submitted.
Yeah, the power company would have to redo their infrastructure, and they weren't interested. That was a while ago. I don't know if they've looked into it since, but I would oppose the solar fields myself, but that's my thing. And yes, those are often no cost, but you're leasing the property to somebody who's gonna be using money and selling it on the open market as green energy. So that's just how that works. It's not that the benefit to the town is,
Well, if it helps with the electricity costs is what I'm thinking.
I would think it would, yeah,
Right.
yep.
It's an idea.
There's another question on the board, I think, or a comment.
Have an identification on the board, and
Is
the
that
previous
it?
question
Saffron.
Dave was made by Jessica Saffron from Rocco Road. Any other questions from the
Oh,
audience?
thank you, Jessica.
Martin?
Just a follow-up, with you, Dave,
Yeah.
two short questions, I guess. First of all, who pays for the Bolton kids that go to the, I assume we pay for the.
Correct schools, yes.
And how does that happen? What rate do we pay for those kids?
That's a great question. I don't have an exact number for you, so I don't want to speak out of turn and say a number that's not accurate. I have to, I don't know.
He's new on the job.
Yeah.
A month or so.
No, I.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I can get that answer for you.
you also have the trade schools too, right? The Sheen
Yes.
Tech and I've seen that.
Bolton is responsible for that.
For students that go to like
Yeah.
Connecticut River, yes.
I mean, we're writing a check to whoever,
It's the state of Connecticut.
Frank or whoever
Yeah.
runs these schools.
I don't recall that number being very big though.
Is there any chance we could send all 218 kids out to these schools?
You can do anything you want. You, you have to get them to want to go there,
Yeah.
but, and no, they won't accept them all. They still have a process where you have to go, and they only take so many kids, and they're taking
Well,
them.
and I'm not a
for
big
time.
advocate of closing.
Well, I was gonna say I'm a little biased, but I think we offer a
Yeah,
pretty,
I mean, I think we should do
Great
everything
experience
in
for our
our
kids.
power to figure out how to keep this high school going at a reasonable cost.
Yeah.
But, that potentially would be an option, right? Columbia doesn't have a high school, Andover doesn't have a high school.
right.
So, I mean, what are those other options and what do they cost? The other question I had, you're probably gonna have to get back to us on, but I'm just wondering, like, what kind of flex we have in the under the current budget. From the number I looked at, it looks like, since 2021 budget, looks like our students are down about 12%, and I guess it's way more than that. Going further back, I couldn't find the data.
You mean the total
Student population,
Okay.
yeah.
It's down.
And I understand, we can't reduce the budget by 12% because you have to have a section of English, you have, have a section of math, whatever it is. But with that said, what is our target class size, particularly in the elementary schools? And how many, I'm just kind of wondering, how many kids could we bring in without adding to the staff?
Yeah, so great question. You were correct. I don't have an exact answer for that for you right now. Is there an ideal class size? I'm not sure there's an ideal one. I think it depends on who you asked.
I mean, I'm looking at the elementary school. It looked like it was probably rough numbers 15, 16.
Yeah, I think 15 to 20 is most of our elementary class, and I think that's a really good number. I think it's a number that's manageable for the teacher to really get to know their students, get to know the students' needs, be able to push those students. I think it's a good number to be able to do cooperative learning, do station work and things like that. But instead of having a class of 30, let's say, like third graders, a class of 8 third graders, you wouldn't be able to do a lot of those things either. So there'd be fewer opportunities for the students to learn from each other and do cooperative things like that. The other thing, it's hard, it's a little more difficult to quantify a staff member to class size or services that provided students, because while the student population has decreased over the years, student need has increased. And so we're seeing an increased need in students that may be performing below grade level in reading and math and need extra supports. And so there's not extra time in the schedule built. The school day doesn't get longer. So you have to try to find time during the school day and resources to be able to provide those students with the resources that they need. Social emotional needs are increasing. And so students need additional supports in that area as well. So while the student population has gone down, in a lot of ways, the student needs have increased, which require resources, require staff. So we can make sure that we're giving all of our students everything that they need. And so I think that's what's challenging for me. Obviously, I'm assuming Superintendent Heck's budget, but in thinking about budget, trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can for the taxpayers, right? But making sure that I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that every student in our school district gets exactly what they need.
Dave,
It's a delicate balance.
to give you the figures at our 3-board meeting that we had on October 17th of last year, the former superintendent, Kristen Heck, shared numbers for enrollment for the years 2023 back to 2010. So it's out there. If you go out on the town website for the Board of Selectmen's minutes, go to the,
I was on, I think,
go to
the
Board of.
budget website, and I couldn't
No,
find.
it's not in there. There's a 3-board meeting that we do where it's the
Yeah.
Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and Board of Ed. We meet it's supposed to be 3 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year. It's once a quarter. And in our October meeting, this topic came up, and Superintendent Heck did, present this. So go to Board of Selectmen, go to October 17th of 2024, and look for 3-board meeting. It's in there.
And I'll try to get you some information if I can on the decline in student enrollment percentage wise in the state of Connecticut.
And I will send that to
That's
you.
pretty long.
I'm just trying to look at it from sort of the opposite perspective. Okay, we can't cut staff
Yeah.
right now, but can we bring in more students?
Yeah.
And taxpayers that are without having an increased cost in the BOE budget?
Yeah, I know, even though it's a challenge to try to get more students from Columbia to come, that's one thing that's on my list of things to try to do. So we're gonna make every effort we can to make sure that we try to attract as many students at Bolton as we can.
And to David's point about meeting the needs of people in the classroom, right? One thing that the town or the Board of Ed has, the town doesn't necessarily have, or they have more statutory obligations, right? They have to meet certain needs of the students, right? And there have been times in the past, I don't have the details because, private information, but where the Board of Education has been sued for not meeting the needs of the students in the classroom, and that costs the taxpayers a lot in attorney fees, like a lot of money in attorney fees. We've had transfers just to meet those attorney fees, right? And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I think Kristen had looked into potentially becoming a tuition school, right, where students from other towns would come in, which I think is a good thing to explore, right? Because there are towns like Manchester, Vernon, who might want to send their kids here to have a smaller, more private school system, right? That's what we're known as, it's private school at the public for tax money. But with that, you could potentially get higher needs students coming in who then cost the system more. So you get some more money, but then you also may have to spend some more money. So everything's a double-edged sword, right? That have to be weighed and considered.
So there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't digging in as deep, years ago as I am trying to do now, but it just seemed like we had you know, when we added on to the high school in 2010, whatever it was, and it seemed like we had a lot of good things going for us. So a lot of choice students, a lot of Columbia students came, and, you know, that's all diminished, and
Yeah.
it has to be replaced somehow.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Right.
Make it more palatable for people to have children. It's really expensive to have a kid on 5
Well, no, that doesn't build a house. No, but see, that's the wrong philosophy, right? Because if somebody's already living here, you don't want them to have children. They're already paying the taxes, but they're not, just like me. Want people to move into town and have a lot of children. Into new homes.
Do we have any more, Tom, there, you're up. I don't see any on the,
Any from the audience? Any more questions? I do have a statement that was handed to me and I'll read that into the record. This comes from Carol Henry, 135 Vernon Road in Bolton. She is in attendance tonight on the Zoom. And she's saying, in reference to the budget, I want to know if we have ever considered naming opportunities as a revenue enhancer. For example, the new soccer field. If there's an addition for the fire department or public safety, this could be a naming opportunity, or individual rooms within the complex would allow for more participation. I think this says, I'm an interested citizen at some point when the town wants to consider a new town hall or rooms to be renovated in the school, etc., trails for hiking. I would gladly assist in any way. And this is from Carol Henry, 135 Vernon Road, Bolton.
You mean like sponsorship, like
Yeah.
you pay? and
Yeah, naming
you get to
rights.
name Something, yeah.
Kind of neat.
That's unique.
Yeah, so.
We
any-
discussed that
Yeah.
at some of our meetings. I can't remember what it was.
so the town hall is 10 million, so anybody looking to donate 4 or 5, well.
Get naming right.
Mark's retired.
As a matter of fact, I was just reading a couple days ago, my former boss just donated tens of millions of dollars to Penn, Orton, to name the building after him.
Wow.
And he's got a place that got named professorship at Harvard too, so.
Would you like to give us his contact information?
Yes. So anyways,
Any other
Any
questions
other questions?
from the virtual people, the virtual group?
no? Guess not. And there's none here. So I just want to say that, thank you, everybody, for coming.
Oh, they won't let us mute.
We have, Patrice has managed to get the property on the corner of, near 3J's there on the state's, watch list for developers who are coming in. So that piece of property is now listed in a much better spot than it was. I think it's 17 acres, something like, it's a good sized piece of property, and it's eligible for almost anything. There was a grocery store going in there one time, I think, but that fell through, so that piece is a pretty important piece of property, and the old theater property is probably our hottest spot at the moment that's being looked at, so
And there's water, sewer, both of those,
no water.
no water.
There's capacity limits, right? For
Yeah.
sewer?
Yeah, I mean, it's not here yet.
Those are
but
due to expire soon, aren't they? That whole.
It's being paid off in a year, I think 1 year, and then the game changes,
Go away, I believe.
then it changes a little bit, yeah. And it,
That's what they're waiting for.
more, I don't blame them, yeah. So I mean, as far as development previous to that, I don't know if there's a lot of development anywhere. I'm in the construction industry, and there's just doesn't seem to be a lot going on in the smaller towns, and that's just the way it is.
Dollar stores,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Worse than Dunkin' Donuts.
I mean, all these companies are gonna be investing billions of dollars in the US. All we want is one of them $1 billion buildings in Bolton somewhere. And
Just one, we're not greedy.
we'd be good to go.
Would you like to make an announcement for anyone who listens to this and anyone who's here about the change in location? For the referendum.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So I'm gonna switch hats for a second.
Well, before you do that, we have a new member in the audience. Do you have any questions of the board?
No, not at this time. I couldn't follow because I had a conflict. So I asked for the link for the meeting, was never sent to me. So I came late. I'm sorry.
It's being recorded.
It might be, is it?
I don't see. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it is. Yes, it is.
It's being recorded, so there's gotta be a way we can get to the recording somehow.
Yeah.
If you leave your email address, we can share it with you.
And there's one more statement on the board, which is a thank you from Jessica. Thank you again for taking the time to open this time to us.
You're welcome, Jessica. Glad we could do it. Right,
Someone had spoken up there for a second. I don't know if they had a question or.
no, I think it was just some mumbling going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going, this is again Ross Lally. I am switching hats. I'm taking off my finance committee hat and putting on my registrar of voters hat. And just letting folks know, and please pass this on, that we're moving the voting location for this next referendum. It will still be at the same time. So you show up at 8 and you, as long as you're in line by 8 o'clock at night, show up 6 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night it closes. And we're moving it from St. Maurice's over to Bolton Congregational Church's education building. So right next door to the town hall. And the reason for the move is St. Maurice has been very gracious and lets us use the place for free. However, it's not air conditioned, and on the last 2 cycles, despite all the help that Jim Aldrich did by putting up insulation on the walls, temperatures inside are in the mid 80s to 90 degrees for 16 hours for the poll workers. It's not good. They were all in like 60s, 70s, and 80s, and it's not good. So I checked around. Dave Caruso, our superintendent, was very gracious, offered the use of the commons room at the high school. And that would be good, except God forbid we have a 7th referendum. We couldn't do it there because school would be open the 2 weeks, in the future from the 12th. So we're going to Bolton Congregational because they don't have to worry about that. And it's air conditioned and it'll be much safer for the poll workers. So that's my notice. Please pass it on. Anybody I chat with, I just tell them to make sure that please come and vote
It will
too.
be in the Everbridge reminders that go out via email,
Yeah.
phone, and text. It's been on social media, and I think the bulletin went out.
And if you do forget, there's going to be a sign up in front of St. Maurice that says, just backtrack and go over to Bolton Congregational Church. And we'll have signs out there too that say, voting here.
All right.
Last
Final.
chance. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming.
Thanks all. Yeah.
Thanks everybody here. Thanks everybody who attended virtually.
Thank you.